Grace Henderson said that out loud right in the middle of the dining room at the Magnolia, and half the restaurant pretended not to hear her. The other half did hear it, and they turned around with that look people get when they watch something unfold. A waitress who had been balancing 2 plates in the air suddenly setting them down to go and help the little old lady who had been standing in the doorway for 5 whole minutes. Standing there without a single person acknowledging her, because no one in that restaurant had wanted to see her. She had walked in alone at 2:15 in the afternoon, slowly, leaning on a wooden cane with a worn handle smoothed down from years of use. She was wearing an ivory wool cardigan, darned at the elbow, a long skirt, a pair of old black flats that had been polished with care but had clearly seen better days, and her white hair was pinned up in a neat bun. She was not carrying a designer bag. She was not wearing any makeup. She had the weathered face of a woman in her early 80s and a pair of sharp eyes that had not dimmed along with everything else. She stood in the doorway looking around for someone to help her, and the entire restaurant moved right past her the way water moves past a stone. The host, a man named Brandon, looked her over in a single glance and looked away. It took him nearly 2 minutes to approach her, and when he did, it was with the plastic smile reserved for moving someone along without seeming rude. "Do you have a reservation?" he asked. "No, sweetheart," the old woman said in a calm and steady voice. "Is that required at this hour?" "Yes, ma'am. We're fully booked." "But I can see an empty table right there by the window." "That one's being held, ma'am. There's a diner a few blocks down. Might be more your kind of place." "More your kind of place." The old woman repeated that slowly, like she was tasting what those words really meant. "I understand, son. I understand perfectly." It was not fully booked. That table by the window had been sitting empty for half an hour. But Brandon had already calculated in about 2 seconds what this woman would leave as a tip, which was nothing, and how long she would occupy a table during the lunch rush, which was a lot. The old woman did not take offense. She just nodded slowly, like someone making a note. At the table next to where she stood, 2 women with designer bags hanging off their chair backs glanced at her for a second and went back to their plates. "Poor thing," said one of them, stirring her salad. "They really shouldn't let them wander in like this. It makes the other guests uncomfortable." "Don't make eye contact," said the other. "One time I gave one of them some change and she followed me half a block. Lesson learned." "You're right. Don't even look. Change the subject." And the 2 of them laughed quietly. The old woman heard them. She heard every single word. She did not move a muscle in her face. She stood there looking straight ahead with those sharp eyes, steadying herself on her cane, deciding whether it was worth staying on her feet or whether it was time to go. And then, from across the dining room, weaving between tables with a water pitcher in one hand, Grace Henderson saw her. "Good afternoon," Grace said, already at the woman's side, smiling with her whole face. "Have you been helped, or have they got you standing here forgotten?" "Forgotten, honey," the old woman said, and something shifted in her eyes when she heard the word "ma'am" spoken with real respect rather than impatience. "But don't trouble yourself. I don't think I belong here." "Of course you belong here. Here, hold on to me, don't be shy. Brandon, I've got this table." "Grace," Brandon said through his teeth, stepping closer. "That window table is reserved." "Reserved for who? I've been watching it sit empty all morning. It's reserved for this lady who got here before anyone else did," Grace said, holding his gaze until he exhaled and stepped aside. Then she turned back to the old woman, gentle as before. "There you go, ma'am. Come on. You'll get a nice bit of sun at that table. You'll be very comfortable." "You won't get in trouble for me, will you, honey?" "Let them try. That's what I'm here for, serving people. Let's go nice and easy, all right? There's no rush. I'll match your pace." The old woman looked at that outstretched arm for a moment, the look of someone who had not been offered anything in a long time, and then she took it. They crossed the dining room together, the young waitress adjusting her long stride to match the short, careful steps of the old woman, stopping when she stopped, not pulling, not rushing, guiding her between the tables like you'd guide something that matters. The old woman's cane tapped against the hardwood floor in a slow, steady rhythm, and Grace matched her own steps to that same beat without being asked.
Here's your spot, ma'am.
Grace took the cane, carefully leaning it against the wall within easy reach, not tossed in a corner. She pulled out the chair and laid the napkin across the woman's lap. "What can I get you? It's warm out today. Let me start you with some water. Sweet tea if you have it. But let me look at the menu first, honey. I don't want to get myself into a situation. I think this place might be a little out of my range. Here, hand that to me and I'll walk you through it." Grace leaned in and lowered her voice, the way you do when you're talking to a friend, the kind of thing that would earn her a sharp look from Brandon if he overheard. "I'll be straight with you, ma'am, because I like you already. The entrees here are genuinely expensive. See this number right here? Lord have mercy, I could feed myself for a week on that back home." Exactly. Don't even look at that section. But here's the thing, the house corn chowder with a little fresh herb on top comes with bread, and it is wonderful. And the sweet tea is complimentary. So let me bring you your soup, plenty of bread, and your tea, and we eat well without putting a dent in anything. How does that sound? And that's allowed? Not a problem. I'll take care of it. You just sit back. The old woman looked at her for a long moment and smiled. A small smile, the kind that hides more than it shows. "You've got a good head for business, honey. Bring me your soup, then. I'll have it out to you hot. And don't you go anywhere on me, you hear? If you need anything, just wave me down." "What's your name, sweetheart, so I'm not hollering across the room?" "Eleanor. Eleanor Whitfield." "Grace Henderson, at your service." "Grace, what a pretty name." "My mama gave it to me for a reason," she says. "I believe it. I'll be right back. Don't you move." Grace went to the kitchen happy, not once suspecting that every single thing she had just done, without thinking it through, without calculating any of it, had already gotten her through the first part of a test she didn't know she was taking. Nobody in the Magnolia had paid attention to the most important scene of the afternoon. Nobody except for one man standing in the partially open kitchen doorway, a cloth napkin still in his hand, who had gone completely still. The man holding the napkin was named Carter Whitfield. He was 43 years old, and he was the owner of the Magnolia. He had recognized the old woman the moment she walked in. Of course he recognized her. She was his mother. He had nearly sprinted across the room to hug her, to scold her for being out alone dressed like that, to put her at the best table in the house. But something in the way she stood there, watching and waiting, stopped him cold. He knew that stillness. It was the stillness his mother got when she was taking the measure of someone. So he stayed in the shadow of the doorway, curious, determined not to ruin whatever she was up to. And from there, he watched Brandon try to push her out. The blood rose in his face. And then right at that moment, he watched a young woman from across the dining room set down her pitcher and come over. He saw the arm offered. He saw the stride adjusted to match the old woman's pace. He saw his mother take that stranger's arm with a gentleness he had not seen from her in years. He stepped out of the kitchen and approached Brandon, who was nearby pretending to review something. "Brandon, that waitress over by the window, what's her name?" Brandon went pale because the owner never asked for a waitress by name. And when he did it, almost always meant someone was about to be let go. "Grace, sir. Grace Henderson. Did she do something wrong? Because I should tell you she seated someone without authorization. A woman who didn't look like—" "Like what, Brandon?" "Well, like our usual clientele, sir. I was going to suggest she try somewhere that might be more suited to her. I was protecting the atmosphere." "The atmosphere? You decide who eats in my restaurant?" "No, sir. I was only—" Carter looked at him steadily. "She did nothing wrong. Leave her alone. And listen to me. That table by the window is on me today. Whatever the lady orders, right up through coffee. Neither one of them finds out. Understood?" "Yes, sir, but—" "No buts, Brandon. And the next time you see someone standing in my doorway, you treat them like the best customer you've had all day, even if they walked in wearing flip-flops. Are we clear?" "Crystal clear, sir." Carter returned to his corner and watched the whole meal. He watched Grace come back with the soup and bread, and he noticed that without being asked, she had torn the bread into small pieces before setting it down, because old hands struggle with a hard roll. And that is something you only know if you have cared for someone elderly. He watched her stop by the table regularly, not to rush the woman but to talk with her. "How's the soup, ma'am?" "It's absolutely wonderful, honey. Did you make it?" "Oh, goodness, no. I just serve it, but I did ask the cook to add a little extra cream because you're a special customer." Special me. I'm probably the poorest person who's walked in today. The poorest and the most charming. Can I warm up your bread? Carter watched, and when the old woman accidentally knocked her spoon off the table, Grace picked it up, brought a clean one, and never made a single face. Not even the tiny involuntary wince that most people can't quite suppress when an elderly person is being difficult. "Oh, sweetheart, I'm so sorry. How clumsy of me." "Clumsy nothing, ma'am. It slipped. Happens to everyone. Here's a fresh one, and let me put a little cloth under it so it stays put." She treats her like a queen, Carter thought, watching from across the room. And she has no idea she's serving the woman who owns all of this. She treats her like a queen because she thinks she's poor. When the old woman finished and began to rise, Carter saw the moment that would follow him waking and sleeping. Grace set everything down, left 2 tables waiting on their checks, and went back to offer her arm again. "Hold on, ma'am. Don't get up alone. Take my arm. I'll walk you to the door." "You don't have to do that, honey. You've done more than enough." "Not a bit of trouble. Nice and easy. I'll match your pace." And again she adjusted her stride to match the old woman's, walking her slowly toward the door. And before she let her go, she reached up and settled the cardigan back onto the woman's shoulder the way it had slipped, the way a granddaughter would fix her grandmother's coat. At the door, the old woman took Grace's hand in both of hers. "God bless you, honey. You did something for me today that I won't forget. Not because of the soup, because of the other thing." "The other thing? What other thing, ma'am?" "Don't worry about it just yet. Someday you'll understand." The old woman squeezed her hand. "What did you say your name was again?" "Grace. Grace Henderson. You come back any time. Just ask for me and I'll take care of you. Don't you stay away out of embarrassment. The food here's for everyone." "Grace," the old woman repeated, like she was storing it away. "Grace." The old woman made her way slowly out, her cane tapping against the hardwood, and before she reached the door, she turned one last time. She did not look at Grace. She looked toward the shadow of the kitchen doorway where her son was standing, and held his gaze for just a single second. She had seen him from the beginning. A mother always sees her son. And a small, deep, involuntary smile crossed her face, one that said clearly without a single word, "This one." Carter knew that smile. It was the one she wore when something had completely satisfied her. And he understood with a chill that both of them had seen the same thing in this young woman, and neither of them had gone looking for it. Brandon came over, still nervous, holding the check from the window table. "Sir, do I charge the lady with the cane, or—" "You said it was on the house." "That's what I said, Brandon." "Yes, sir. She asked me how much she owed, and I didn't know what to tell her." "What did you tell her?" "That her soup was complimentary from the restaurant. Her eyes got watery, sir. Honestly, it made me feel bad for not having taken care of her myself." "Good," said Carter, without looking away from Grace. "Let that feeling stick, Brandon. Maybe next time you'll think twice before you leave someone standing in the door." That night, Eleanor Whitfield sent word for her son to come to the big house. Carter arrived expecting a scolding. Instead, he found his mother settled in her usual armchair, dressed in her good clothes now, with her silver-handled cane resting beside her, drinking her chamomile tea, wearing the expression of a cat who had gotten exactly what it wanted. "I know you saw me," she said without a greeting, "standing in your kitchen doorway spying on your own mother. Just like when you were little and you wanted to see what Christmas present I was hiding." "Mom, can you please explain to me what you were doing dressed like that?" Carter sat down across from her. "You could have been mugged. You could have fallen. You were out there alone. No driver, no phone call." "I was almost thrown out," she said with a terrible calm. "That host of yours, the one in the vest, he tried to put me out like a stray dog, in my own restaurant, without knowing who I was. I'll fire him tomorrow." You will not fire anyone. She sipped her tea. I don't blame him, son. That's just how the world treats old women who look poor. I only wanted to see it for myself with my own eyes. And I saw it, plain and complete. But why, Mom? What were you looking for going out dressed that way? Eleanor set down her teacup and looked at him with those sharp eyes that age had never managed to put out. I was looking for a wife for your son. That is exactly what I was doing. Carter let out a tired laugh. Mom, please, I have the whole family pushing Vanessa at me at every dinner. She's from the right family, she knows how to entertain. There's no one better. Vanessa is actually what I wanted to talk to you about. Eleanor folded her hands. Look, I am going to die, Carter. Mom, don't say that. Don't give me that face, it's the truth, and the truth doesn't mind being said. I'm 81 years old, and I have a heart that complains on the stairs. And before I go, the only thing I'm asking God for is not to leave you alone in this enormous house, surrounded by people who love you for what you have. I'm not alone. You are completely alone, and you know it. Your whole life, people have been chasing after you for what you own. I have watched it. And I am terrified that you're going to end up married to one of those women who smile at you over dinner and give you cold silence for the rest of your life. Vanessa isn't like that, Carter said without much conviction. Maybe not, maybe so. I won't condemn her on a feeling alone. Eleanor leaned forward. That is why I invented my little test. Your grandmother taught it to me 60 years ago. You want to know who a person really is? Don't watch how they treat someone who can do something for them. Anyone can fake that. Watch how they treat someone who can give them nothing at all. An old person, a poor person, someone who is of no use to them for getting ahead. There is no performance for an audience that doesn't count. She tapped the arm of her chair. That is why I dressed as nothing, to be for a little while someone of no use to anyone. And I went out to see who would see me. Carter was quiet. He understood everything now, all at once. I went to 4 places, son. At the first, they ignored me like I was a parking meter. At the second, a well-dressed young woman elbowed me out of the way at the register like I was a piece of furniture. At the third, a server told me in plain language that they didn't accommodate people who weren't purchasing anything. And at the fourth, at yours, your host tried to send me away. She paused. And then, when I was already turning to leave, when I was ready to give up and decide the whole world had gone rotten, a girl from across the room set down what she was carrying and came to give me her arm. Eleanor's voice cracked just slightly. Just one, Carter. Out of everywhere I went, one person gave me her arm. She adjusted her stride to match mine. She tore the bread into pieces without my asking, because she noticed on her own that old hands can't manage a hard roll. She looked out for my wallet so I wouldn't order anything I couldn't afford. She recommended the cheapest soup because she wanted me to be able to eat. And when I left, she gave me her arm again and fixed my sweater on my shoulder the way my mother used to do when I was small. I saw her, Mom, Carter said quietly. I saw everything. From the kitchen. I know. I saw your face, Eleanor smiled again. And that is why I sent for you. Because I went out looking for a wife for my son, and I ended up being found by a stranger who wasn't even in the running. And you fell for her. I did not fall for her. You fell completely, don't deny it. When was the last time a woman gave you something, Carter, without wanting anything in return? Tell me one time, just one. Carter opened his mouth, then closed it. Because the answer was never. You see, Eleanor settled back, satisfied. Her name is Grace. Even her name fits. I am not marrying a stranger because she impressed you, Mom. Nobody said anything about marriage. She softened her voice. I'm not foolish, son. One good afternoon does not make a life together. Maybe she snores. Maybe she has a temper. Maybe she can't put up with your habits, and Lord knows you have them. I'm not saying she's some kind of perfect person. I am not an old curmudgeon. You are a 43-year-old curmudgeon, and I say that with all the love in my heart. Do you remember that woman a few years back, the one from the Prescott family? What does she have to do with anything? You liked her, I could tell. Why did you leave? Because her father started talking to me about investing in one of his projects. I understood what they were after. You understood? Or you assumed, because maybe the father was calculating and the daughter had nothing to do with it. But you measured her by her father's ruler, and that was that. Eleanor pointed at him. That is what you do with all of them, Carter. You measure every woman by the ruler of fear before you give her a chance to speak. All I am asking is that you get to know this one without the ruler, just that, one chance. And if the family objects, Carter said, and as soon as he said it, he heard how small it sounded. To a waitress, let them talk. I sat through their talking when your father married me. I was a baker's daughter, without a dime to my name. They talked for years, son, and now look at them eating in my restaurant, without the faintest idea whose name is on the deed. That was a different time, Mom. It is exactly the same. The people who talk always end up eating at the table of the one who didn't listen to them. Don't be afraid of anyone's tongue, Carter. Be afraid only of ending up alone because you were too scared to try. Carter sat quietly looking at this small, stubborn woman who at 81 years old still understood better than he did what was worth something. Now Vanessa Trent found out before anyone else had a chance to tell her. Not because someone told her out of meanness, but because she had spent months with her ear pressed to everything that happened around Carter Whitfield, and an ear like that always eventually hears. She found out that Eleanor had been at the restaurant in disguise. She found out that the owner had asked for a waitress by name. She found out that the waitress had been invited by Eleanor herself to come to the family house for tea, and her blood went cold. Vanessa was not a villain, even if it would have been easy to paint her that way. She was a 37-year-old woman caught inside a fear that no one in her world ever admitted out loud. She came from the right family and very little money. One of those families that still has the silver candlesticks but nothing left to polish them with. Her father had ruined himself financially and died leaving her a mortgaged house and one single instruction. And that morning before leaving home she had heard it again from her mother at the breakfast table. "And Carter, sweetheart? Have you made any progress with Carter?" "I'm working on it, Mom." "Working on it? You have been working on it for a year. Has he said anything? Has he mentioned the future?" "These things can't be rushed. You have to be patient." "Patient." Her mother set her cup down with a sharp little click. "I don't have patience, Vanessa. I have debt. I have this house falling down around us, and you are 37, not 17. Don't tell me to be patient." "I know. You don't have to remind me every single day." "I remind you because no one else will do it kindly. There is no one like him in this entire city. And you are not in a position to wait any longer. Do you hear me?" "I hear you, Mom. I always hear you." "Then do something. Because if it's not Carter, you tell me what becomes of us, of this house of your mother, when she can't take care of herself anymore. Tell me." Vanessa did not answer. There was no answer. Vanessa did not love Carter. She barely knew him. But he was the rope everything else hung from. The family name, the house, the proof that she had not been left behind. Losing him wasn't losing a boyfriend. It was losing the only life she had been trained to live. That's why she went to his office unannounced, dressed impeccably, and spoke to him with a perfect smile and a hidden edge in every sentence. "I thought it was so sweet what your mother did," she said, settling gracefully into the chair across from him. "Getting attached to an employee like that. It happens with older people. They connect with whoever shows them attention." "My mother is completely sharp, Vanessa." "Oh, I know. I didn't say otherwise. I only mean it's understandable. A lady on her own, a young woman who is attentive, anyone could take a liking. It's very natural." She crossed her legs. "The only thing that would concern me, Carter, is if someone took advantage of that fondness." "What exactly are you getting at?" "Nothing unkind, I promise. I'm saying this as your friend. You know how these situations can go. A young woman in a difficult situation sees a single owner, sees a wealthy older woman who takes to her, and suddenly she becomes the sweetest, most devoted person in the world. I don't blame her for it, honestly. If I were in her position, I might do the same. It's her one big opportunity. Or maybe she's just a good person." "Maybe." Vanessa smiled. "Or maybe she read the room faster than you think. You and I both grew up in this world. We know the difference between genuine warmth and strategic warmth, don't we, Carter? It was elegant poison, the exact argument that had made Carter bitter his entire life, that in his world no one cared without calculating, now turned against Grace, the one person he had actually watched not calculate. And for one ugly moment, Carter doubted. "I appreciate your concern, Vanessa," he said with cool courtesy. "I'll keep it in mind." "Of course, that's what friends are for." She stood, picked up her bag, and at the door she dropped the final seed. "Just one thing. Don't open the door of your house to anyone without knowing what they're made of first. You of all people know how many people have tried to take advantage of you. Don't let it happen again." She left believing she had planted well, and she had. The doubt took root and gnawed at him. If Grace had seen him in the kitchen doorway, had she understood everything and staged the whole scene with the arm and the bread just to reel him in? The question made him sick, because it killed the one clean thing that had happened to him in years. And a few days later, that doubt made him commit the mistake that almost cost him everything. He called Grace into his office, and without explaining why, without telling her anything about his mother or the test, he placed an envelope on the desk in front of her. Inside was money, far more than Grace earned in 2 years. "Consider it a thank you," he said, not meeting her eyes, hiding behind the business tone he used when he didn't want to feel anything. "For the way you treated a special guest the other day. The woman with the cane, she turns out to be someone important to me. Take it. You earned it." He said it exactly like that. You earned it. The way you'd pay someone for services rendered, turning something that came from the soul into a transaction. Because underneath it all, he was testing Grace, just the way his mother had tested her, but in reverse and driven by fear. If she took the money, Vanessa would be right, and he could stop feeling what he was feeling, which was the thing that actually terrified him. Grace looked at the envelope. She looked at the money, and Carter felt his heart drop because he could see from her face that she understood exactly how much was there and what that sum meant to a woman who rented a shared room. Grace closed the envelope and slid it back to him. "No, sir," she said, pushing the envelope toward him with 2 fingers slowly, the way you push away something that burns. "I didn't give that woman my arm for money, and I'm not going to charge for it now. Take it. It's a lot of money. It would help you." "It would help me enormously. I won't lie to you about that." "Then take it. Don't be stubborn." "It's not stubbornness, sir." Grace's voice trembled slightly, but she did not lower it. "With that money, I could cover my mom's doctor bills for a year. I could get my own place, not a shared room. You don't know what that envelope means to me. You really don't. That's exactly why it hurts so much to hand it back." "Then why are you handing it back?" "Because if I take that envelope, then what I did for that lady becomes something you can buy. And it wasn't that." She swallowed. "I gave her my arm because she reminded me of my grandmother, God rest her soul, my grandma back home. One time they left her sitting on a bench at the county health clinic for 3 hours waiting for her turn, while people who came in after her were seen first just because they looked like they had more money. 3 hours, sir, with her arthritis, no one offering her so much as a glass of water." Carter said nothing. Grace continued. "I was 9 years old. I was with her. I was holding her hand, and there was nothing else I could do but hold it. And from that day I made myself a promise that as long as I had 2 arms, no old person was going to stand alone in a line if I was anywhere nearby. That isn't a virtue, sir. It's a promise, and promises don't get a price tag." There was silence in the office. Grace's eyes filled, but with anger, not with grief. "Keep your money. And let me say one thing to you with all due respect, and you can let me go if you want for saying it. Say it. This offends me. It offends me that you think it can be bought. I may be poor, sir, but my warmth is not for sale. And if you called me in here just to see whether I'd grab that envelope, to find out if I was one of those people who gets close to someone for what they can get out of it, then you did not understand a single thing you saw that day, not one thing." Her chin trembled. She did not hide it. She pushed the envelope 1 more inch toward him, turned, and walked to the door. "Wait," Carter said, and the word came out broken, different from everything he had said in his business voice. Grace stopped, without turning around. "You're right. I didn't understand any of it. I'm sorry. Please forgive me." "Forgive you for what, sir? You're the owner. You can think whatever you like of me." "I can. That's what I just figured out." He ran his hand over his face. "I have spent my whole life with people approaching me because of what I have. My whole life, Grace. Until I don't know how to recognize it when someone approaches without wanting anything. I forgot that existed. And then I watched you give your arm to that woman, not knowing who she was, and I couldn't believe it was real. I was afraid. Afraid of what? Of believing it and having it turn out to be a lie. So I brought you the envelope not to insult you, to protect myself, and it blew up in my face." "It really did, sir. With all respect, you know what hurts more than the insult? You almost made me doubt myself. For just 1 second I thought maybe I did something wrong. Maybe they really did see a price on me. And that I will forgive you for, because I know myself. It's the only thing I am certain of in this life." "You're right. Again. You've been right all afternoon." Grace turned slowly. "Who is she, sir? You said she was someone important to you." Carter looked at her, and after a very long time of hiding, he chose to tell the truth without any armor. "She is my mother." Your mother?" Grace's mouth fell open. "The woman in the darned cardigan is your mother?" "That's right." "But I told her to order the soup because everything else was too expensive. I told her not to get herself into any trouble. I talked to her poor person to poor person." She covered her face with her hands. "Oh, Lord. I thought she was a little old lady on her own." "You treated her like a queen," Carter said. "That's what you did, and you didn't know who she was. That's why. Why, what, sir? I don't follow. My mother dressed that way on purpose. She wanted to see how people treated an old woman who had nothing to offer anyone. It's a test she has had for 60 years. And out of everyone in that restaurant, out of everyone on the whole street, you were the only one who passed it, without knowing you were being tested, which is, according to my mother, the only way to truly pass." Grace stood very still, connecting the dots. "God bless you, honey, for the other thing," she whispered. "That's what she said at the door, and I had no idea what she meant." "That is why she said it. My mother has been talking about you ever since, Grace. And so have I, even though I hadn't told anyone until now. Because the day I watched you from the kitchen, I felt something I hadn't felt in years, and I didn't even know the name for it." He cleared his throat. "I brought you the envelope today because I was afraid. But what I actually wanted to say to you is this." And then Carter Whitfield, owner of the Magnolia, a man who had been guarded his entire life, said to Grace Henderson the sentence that was the real reason for everything. "I did not fall for you because of how you treated me. I fell for you because of how you treated my mother when you believed she was nobody." Grace did not answer that day. Everything inside her was shaking. But she was a woman who had learned to be careful about what arrives too easily. And she left the office with her heart in a knot, without saying yes and without saying no. What she did do was something simpler and more honest. She went back on Sunday to have tea with Eleanor because the woman had invited her, and because she was not going to let an old lady down out of fear of a wealthy man. "I'm so glad you came, honey," Eleanor said when she saw her walk in. "I was afraid you'd back out. I don't back out on people out of fear, ma'am, even if I am incredibly embarrassed right now." "Embarrassed about what?" "About having told you to order the soup because everything else was too expensive. About talking to you like we were both trying to make ends meet. And here you are owning the whole place. That soup recommendation was the best thing anyone has done for me in years, Grace." The old woman laughed. "Come sit right here next to me. And I told you twice already. It's Eleanor, not ma'am." "That's hard for me." "Well, you're going to have to learn. Now pour yourself some tea. Tell me about your mother, the one with the tamales." "Oh, my mama is the hardest working woman I know. She put 4 kids through school selling food out of a cart in front of the mill school. Rain, shine didn't matter. There she was with her griddle." "And your father?" Left when I was 6. Eleanor. I don't even remember his face. And your grandmother, the one at the clinic. You remember that? I remember everything that matters, honey. She raised us while my mama worked. She was everything to me. She's why I am the way I am with older folks. I made her a promise when I was a little girl. I know, Eleanor said very quietly, and she patted Grace's hand. I know that better than anyone. Have more tea. But Vanessa was not going to give up without a fight. That same Sunday, she appeared at the big house uninvited, dressed beautifully, carrying flowers for Eleanor and a sharp smile. She intended to embarrass the waitress in front of the family, to make her feel out of place. She walked into the sitting room, where the three of them were having tea, and started her careful work. What a charming little gathering, she said, looking Grace up and down. Grace Wright, what a sweet name. And what does your family do, dear? My mama sells food outside of middle school, ma'am, and I'm a waitress. Oh, a waitress. How lovely. Vanessa laughed a bright, crystal sound. How terribly generous of you, Eleanor, receiving the staff in your own sitting room like this. You don't see that kind of charity anymore. Vanessa, Eleanor said with glacial calm. Who invited you to this tea? Oh, no one. I was in the neighborhood and thought I'd stop by with flowers. I didn't realize I'd be interrupting something so intimate. Well, you are interrupting, but since you're here, sit down and learn something. And then something Vanessa had not accounted for happened. Eleanor was rising from her armchair slowly, holding her cane, moving toward the tea service. She lost her footing. It was just the kind of small stumble that happens to elderly people when a cane slips on a polished floor. But at 81, a stumble becomes a fall, and a fall at that age can mean a broken bone, and a broken bone can sometimes be the beginning of the end. Vanessa, who was closer, stepped back. It was a reflex. The body of someone who does not want to be pulled into someone else's problem. She moved the flowers aside and shifted out of the way so the older woman wouldn't knock into her on the way down. Grace crossed the room the same way she had crossed the dining room. She did not think. She did not calculate. She did not stop to see who was watching. She dropped the teacup. It broke against the floor, and she did not even look down. She was across the room in 3 steps and caught Eleanor before the floor did. She held her with both hands, with the steady strength of someone who has helped elderly people before. She reached for the cane as it rolled away, stretched and caught it. Put it back in Eleanor's hand. There, I've got you. Nothing happened. Breathe. Hold on to me. Don't be shy. Let's sit back down nice and slow. That's it. Does anything hurt? Your hip? Your knee? Nothing hurts, Grace, thanks to you. Don't thank me, ma'am. That's what I'm here for. Let me get you some water. You look pale. I'm pale from the aggravation of feeling useless, not from the fall. Let me sit down. Nothing useless about you. The cane slipped. It happens to anyone on a floor this shiny. Here, let me fix your cushion. There, is that better? That is perfect, my girl, just like my mother used to fix it. Eleanor's cane was firm on the floor again, held by the same hand that had guided it through the restaurant. And in that repeated identical gesture in front of the whole family, everything was said that none of Vanessa's words could ever undo. Carter, who had shot to his feet with his heart in his throat, stood frozen at mid-step, with no need to move, because the woman he wanted was already there, exactly where he would have wanted to be. Eleanor, seated now held by Grace, looked at Vanessa, who was still standing a few feet away, bouquet pressed against her chest. She looked at her without anger, almost with pity. "Did you see that, honey?" she said with the soft, clear voice of old women who no longer have time for anything indirect. "When I slipped, you moved back so I wouldn't fall on you. She crossed the room to catch me. I'm not blaming you. Neither one of you thought about it. That's the whole point. It came from somewhere deep down. And that's exactly where you see who a person really is." Vanessa opened her mouth to defend herself. There was no defense. The whole family had seen it. Carter had seen it. She had seen it herself. Her own body had given her away in the 1 second she had not had time to perform. And here the story could have turned cruel toward Vanessa, and it did not, because Eleanor, before the young woman could leave in humiliation, motioned for her to come closer, and spoke to her in a voice meant only for her.
"Come here a minute, sweetheart."
Vanessa came closer, trembling. "I understand you, more than you know. I was also poor with a good last name once. I know what it is to be raised to marry well, because that is the only thing they're going to leave you. I know the fear of being left behind. I know it deep in my bones. Eleanor, please forgive me. Don't ask me for forgiveness. And don't be ashamed of being afraid. That's not a sin. Only be ashamed of who you step on because of that fear. Find a man who loves you for who you are when no one's looking. Stop fighting over one who was never meant for you. You hear me?" She patted Vanessa's hand. "Go on home. Take care of yourself. You got that?" Vanessa left that house without the future she had come to defend. But she carried something out with her that she had not brought in. Something she would take years to appreciate. The first person who had ever told her that her fear was not a sin, and that she did not have to destroy anyone to save herself. She did not become a good person overnight. People do not change overnight. But she left different, and sometimes that is all you can ask for. Grace, kneeling beside Eleanor, had not understood half of what had just happened. She only knew the old woman was safe. "Are you absolutely sure nothing hurts Eleanor?" "Absolutely certain, my girl. Better than ever. Don't scare me like that." "You scared me," Grace exhaled. "Please don't scare me like that again." Eleanor reached up and stroked Grace's cheek with her wrinkled hand. "And don't you call me ma'am anymore, you hear much? You are going to call me Eleanor, or, if God and that foolish son of mine cooperate, someday you'll call me something else entirely." She looked over at Carter with that same involuntary smile. "But that part is up to the two of you. I only set the table." "Mom, please," Carter said, turning red. "What? I'm too old for dancing around things. Get down here next to this girl and say what you need to say." "I've done my part." Carter lowered himself to one knee beside his mother next to Grace, close enough that their shoulders touched. "I said what I had to say in the office," he told Grace quietly. "I'm not asking you to answer today. I'm not asking for a yes or a ring or anything. I'm only asking for one thing to start." "What thing, sir?" "Let me walk alongside you, the way you walked alongside my mother, slowly, no rushing, matching your pace." "Sir, I am a waitress. Let me finish. I have been working on this for days." He swallowed. "I have never known how to match anyone's pace, Grace. My whole life people have rushed to keep up with me for what I have. Teach me how to go slowly, the way you taught my mother. Show me that there are still good people in this world." Grace looked at him for a long time. Then she looked at the old woman who was watching her with bright, shining eyes. "What do I say, Eleanor?" "Say what comes from inside, my girl. That never fails." And Grace, who had been careful about what comes too easily, understood that this had not come easily at all. It had come by the strangest road in the world, by an arm offered to a stranger, by a cheap bowl of soup recommended in good faith, by bread torn into pieces for a pair of old hands. It had come because she had been, without knowing she was being watched, exactly who she was when she thought no one was looking. She did not say yes. She said something better. She reached out her free hand to Carter, the one that wasn't holding Eleanor. "Well then, let's see where this goes. But slowly, all right? I walk people at their own pace." "At your pace, then," Carter said, and he held her hand. "But I warn you one thing, sir. Warn me. I don't know your world. I don't know which fork goes where. I don't know how to make small talk with the kind of people you know. I am a diner girl, not a gala girl." "Good," Carter said, "because I am exhausted by the gala world. I have no idea how to exist in yours. You teach me." "Are you sure your family is going to come at you hard?" "Let them come." Carter looked at his mother. "Someone told me recently that the people who talk always end up eating at the table of the one who didn't listen to them." "I said that?" Eleanor said, satisfied. "And it is as true as the sun." "All right. Will somebody please help me up off this floor? My knees are not what they used to be, and you two are having a moment at my expense." All three of them laughed. And together Grace and Carter helped Eleanor to her feet slowly, one on each side, matching her pace. The old woman between them held on both sides, and above her the two hands that held her, brushing against each other across her lap. Months later, when Grace and Carter were married in a small, quiet wedding, only half the guest list the family had pushed for, Eleanor walked down the aisle on her new daughter-in-law's arm. Slowly, the bride matching her pace, and Eleanor matching hers, the old woman's cane keeping its slow, steady beat against the floor, a rhythm that no longer got in anyone's way. And as they walked together, Eleanor leaned close and said something into Grace's ear that the young woman kept for the rest of her life. "The day you gave me your arm, honey, you didn't just give me an arm. You gave me a son to leave behind in good hands. That is the only thing a mother wants before she goes." She squeezed. "Thank you for not knowing I was watching. That's what made it real." "I didn't do anything remarkable, Eleanor. You did the only thing that matters, my girl. You treated someone with kindness when they had nothing to offer you in return. In this world, that is rarer than gold. And if I had walked out a different door that day, if I hadn't seen you standing there, but you did see me. That is the whole thing, Grace. You see people. The others walked right past. You turned around. And look at everything that came from one turn. It frightens me a little, thinking about it. Don't be frightened of good things, honey. Never. Hold on to good things, the same way you held on to me, good and tight." She adjusted Grace's veil. "Now stand up straight, because your man is waiting at the end of that aisle. And a man worth having should not be kept waiting too long." And Grace walking slowly with the old woman on her arm, the man who loved her waiting at the end of the aisle, understood that the greatest fortune in that house had never been the money. It had been an old woman who, before she died, had found a way to see with her own eyes that her son was going to be left in good hands. And all it had taken was a plain dress, a wooden cane, and the patience to wait and see who would offer her an arm. Maybe that is why this story passes from person to person, because it was never really about a waitress who married a millionaire. It was about a woman who treated people exactly the same when she thought no one was watching, as she did when she knew they were. That, and not the fortune, was what one mother had gone out looking for her son. And maybe that is why it is worth asking ourselves, you and I, how many times we have walked right past an old person who was waiting for nothing more than someone to offer them a hand.